and welcome to your Transcranial Magnetic Stimulation. My name is Calliope, and I'll be taking care of you. I'm just going to sanitize my hands real quick. Here we go. How are you doing today? Are you excited? Okay, a little bit nervous? That is just fine. It's a lot more common than not. So let me just grab a couple of bits of information from you, and we'll see what we can do to put your mind at ease before we start. Now, let's see. Would you mind if I just grab your name and date of birth? Excellent. And is that your preferred name, and how do you like to be addressed? Wonderful. And what is the reason that we are doing this transcranial magnetic stimulation? What are we treating with you? Okay, so we're doing MDD. Very good. So let me take a look at what information I have here. Okay, so far it looks like there are no contraindications. Everything looks good. So let me just tell you a little bit about the treatment first. We'll kind of do a little discussion and you can think on it a little bit more. And if by the end you do not want to do the treatment, that's just fine. And if you do, then we can go ahead with it. Okay? All right. So, transcranial magnetic stimulation. This is a treatment that was developed in 1985, but it took several years later until it was approved by the FDA. So it was approved in 2008. Now in the US, it's approved to treat major depressive disorder, OCD, migraines, and smoking cessation. Now with TMS, or transcranial magnetic stimulation, it also is possibly going to be used for more. Now in the US, it's only approved for these couple of conditions. But other places, like Europe, it's approved to treat much, much more. So we have a little bit more of a, I don't want to say rigorous standard, but it's much harder to get this treatment approved for other sorts of conditions. Now in the future, we may see that it could be a treatment for Alzheimer's, BPD, fibromyalgia, PTSD, schizophrenia, Parkinson's, and so much more. So the TMS treatment uses magnets, like in the name, and this influences the brain's electrical activity. Depending on the treatment, depending on the condition that we are treating, depends on where we aim the magnet. Now, when I say that, I mean a literal magnet. We're using a magnet that has about the same strength as an MRI machine, although it's much, much smaller, so it doesn't cover that much area. But we position it based on what we're trying to target in the brain. So, for example, we have the area that governs more decision-making or emotions, for example, just depending on what we want to treat. So the magnets influence the brain's electrical activity because everything that your brain does, it's all electricity. I think it's said that the brain has the electrical power to light a light bulb. So there's a lot going on there. It's all electricity. So if we use those magnets to stimulate that or to influence it, then we can possibly treat these different conditions. Now, TMS is used for when other first-line treatments fail. So, for example, with major depressive disorder, we may see that someone has tried multiple medications, maybe even therapy, and it just has not worked. That's when we might consider TMS. So TMS is kind of in the same realm as, say, ECT. ECT was developed in the 1930s, and unfortunately it was overused quite a bit. So there is a general negative opinion of it. We often see it in horror contexts. But this is like a very, very baby step compared to that. So with ECT, you are sedated and they do the treatment. But this, you're fully awake, and there shouldn't be much in the realm of feeling, except you might feel kind of a tapping as you hear the magnet turn on and off. So I'll get into what it feels like, side effects, things like that in just a moment. So we've seen people make great strides in improvement with the TMS treatment. Now, there are some side effects, but overall, compared to, say, pharmaceutical side effects or side effects of having the disease that we're treating, I think risk-benefit is quite skewed more towards the benefit, and we can talk a little bit more about that as well. So let's take a pause. Any questions so far? Okay, it is a lot of information, so I'll let you mull that over and we'll move on. So how the treatment goes is we will start with a few pulses. That's when the magnet turns on and off, those pulses, to determine the correct strength. Now, we might notice that your muscles, particularly your fingers, twitch a little bit. And that's helpful for me because that will help determine what is the correct strength. So I'll have you hold up your arm and we'll see when your muscles start to twitch, especially the thumb here. So it's harmless, it feels a little weird. It's kind of like a knee-jerk response almost. When you get the reflex hammer that taps on your knee and your knee moves on its own, it's kind of like that. So after we've determined the correct strength, then we will go in with the actual treatment. So it's going to sound, again, kind of like just some tapping on your head. Imagine kind of like a woodpecker, if you will. So we'll do some taps. It'll pause for a little bit so the magnet has some time to cool down because all that activity can warm it up. Do some taps, pause, do some taps, pause, what have you. And that'll continue for the whole treatment. So you can just hang out and you can close your eyes or listen to music, what have you. Okay? Alrighty, so let's get into contraindications. Now there's only a few, really. There's not too many. So firstly, if you have any sort of electronic or ferromagnetic implants, that would be a contraindication. We obviously don't want any metal piercings, so we would take those out. And also, we would be cautious with people with seizures and epilepsy, and then we'd want to speak to a neurologist about that and weigh the risk benefit. So your history does not have any sort of implants, seizures, or epilepsy. Is that correct? Okay, and you don't have any metal on your body? No, okay. Very good. All right. So for the schedule, when we do these treatments, we want to do these for this particular condition. Generally, it's every weekday for about 6 weeks. So that's going to be 30 treatments in total. So you'd come in, sit down, you get the coil positioned and go about the tapping, and then you go about your day. And that's about it. So as far as side effects go, these generally do not last more than 10 minutes. So we can see people that get headaches, some scalp sensitivity where the magnet is. We can see some dizziness, sensitivity to sound, tingling, sometimes some scalp or neck pain. But again, these don't tend to last more than 10-15 minutes or so. So we'll have you hang out for a little bit afterwards just so we can monitor that. And you might see later on, again, some sensitivity, headaches, pretty minor, but if any of these do affect you greatly, let us know. Let us know if you feel anything off, and we can reassess. We can see if this is still what we want to do and if the risk benefit has changed. Okay? Alrighty, so lastly, if we decide to go through with this, that's totally up to you. We would first start with putting in some earplugs because this machine is quite loud. And then I will be measuring around your head and putting on a little paper guide so that I know what area I need to put the magnet in. I'll position the magnet. It's right over here. So you see this little coil here. Okay. And then we will do those starting pulses. We'll make sure it's at the right strength, and then we'll go through with the treatment. Okay. All right, so how are we feeling about the whole thing? Okay, yes, a lot of information. I know that this was gone through with you before, but it's good to get another refresher just to make sure. I know it can be quite daunting. Again, don't feel bad if you don't feel like you want to do it. It's not a big deal. Okay, we're going to give it a shot. All right. Well, the great thing about this is that you can stop at any point. So it's not like medicine where you have to wean yourself off, or there's not going to be any adverse reactions if you stop. So it's a pretty low risk sort of treatment. Okay. Alrighty. Well, you go ahead and get comfortable. Got my little measuring guide, and we will start by just putting in some earplugs. Okay. So I've got just these little guys here, and we're going to put them in your ears so that when we do the treatment, we're not going to have you lose your hearing. Okay. All right. So if you could just sit still for me. We're just going to do okay, and how is that? How is that? Okay, so that's working. That's good. Now I'm going to do the measuring tape here. So I'm just going to take a measure around your head and make sure that my guide will work for your size head if I need to adjust it at all. Let's see. I'm just going to bring this around. Good. You're doing really well. Stay still for me. Okay. Right about there. All right. Okay, I think that'll work. So just all right, so I have a pretty rudimentary guide here, and looks a little goofy, but I'm just going to be placing this on your head, and it'll let me know where I need to position the magnet. So just going to put this right there. Okay, how is that? Is that all right? Okay, and now the last thing we're going to do is I'm just going to position the magnet right here. So it's going to be pretty close to your head, okay? Then after that, we'll do our little bit of testing, and then we'll continue with the treatment, okay? So let's go ahead and just... Okay, and that's right on there. All right, is that comfortable? Okay, so now we're going to do those little bit of testing pulses, okay? All right, just give me a moment. Okay, so I'm just going to have you prop up your arm on the armrest here, okay? And just hold your hand just slightly open, all right? Don't hold it shut, but you don't have to keep it all the way open. Just let it relax. Okay, and let's go ahead and test the strength. Okay. Okay, I think we are dialed in, so you can relax your arm, right? And now we're going to begin the treatment. Is that all right? Wonderful. So let's go ahead and commence. It's kind of an interesting sensation. So while that's happening, I'll just be doing a little bit of work. I'll just keep an eye on you, make sure everything's all right. Let me know if you need anything. Doing okay? Doing okay? Still doing all right? Okay, very good. You've been doing so well, really. With as much nervousness as you had before, you're really doing quite well. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the machine. Okay, and we'll give it a moment just to cool off before I move it, right? So, how you doing? Was it what you expected, or it was a little easier? That's good. That's good. So that's how all of your treatments will be like. They're going to pretty much be conducted in the same way. I don't think there's really anything else that you have to expect. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, let me go ahead and take off or pull away the machine. Okay, very good. And I'm going to take off the guide. Okay, we don't need that. And lastly, let's take out your earplugs. Okay. And I'll give you just a minute to acclimate. Okay, so are you having any side effects right now? Any headaches, any pain, sensitivity? Okay, definitely the ears feel weird. Yeah. Okay. Any ringing in the ears at all? No, just the sound is a little strange. Yes, that's pretty common. Okay. So again, any sensitivity, any pain? All right, so I am just going to be keeping you here for just a little bit while we monitor for any side effects. So I'm just going to take a look at the area we had the magnet on, okay? So I'm going to get real close here. You mind if I touch you here? Okay, so... What is that? Okay, a little tender. Not even really putting any pressure here. It's definitely quite warm from that magnet. Good. Okay. So overall, just a little bit of tenderness there. Okay. Yeah, that's nothing. It's nothing too serious, but I will note that down. Okay. All right. So while we hang out, I am just going to tidy up my little area since I've got all the bits everywhere. We'll get our little guide here. And we can throw away these earplugs. Good. Okay, excellent. So, from this point on, we can expect you back about the same time, if that's okay with you. Same time you came in for this appointment. All right. And we'll do this every weekday for 6 weeks. Now, of course, if at any point you experience any adverse reactions, you can cancel the treatment. So you don't have to go through with the whole thing if you're not seeing, well, I shouldn't say if you're not seeing any improvement, because it's going to be very gradual. But if you're seeing adverse reactions that do not outweigh the benefit, that's completely up to you. Okay? All right. If you do go through with all the treatments, that is the best way to ensure that A, we get the most reduction in your symptoms, and B, that if you do achieve remission, that helps ensure remission lasts much longer. Okay? All right. Just want you to be aware. So, otherwise, if you're not feeling anything, you don't have anything going on, we can have you stand up. Okay? Just want to make sure you're not unsteady or anything. Okay? Just real slow. Okay. Feel all right? Okay, I think that'll do it then. So, I don't need anything else from you. You're free to go home, and I hope to see you back here tomorrow, same time, and we'll do it all over again. All right? Thank you so much for coming in today. You were wonderful, and I truly hope to see you again. I hope you have a whale of a day and a good rest of your night. Thank you.